This is Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
What is up, everybody? Happy Mondays. We welcome you into Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM Channel 158. He's Jonathan Von Tobel. I'm Stormy Bonantoni. We're live as always in downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. And I am hoping, JVT, that this is the final day of my sickness. I think that I'm on the other side of it now. I feel good. My voice is just a little bit congested still, but I think this is going to be the last day. We'll be back to normal.
As long as you stop sniffling into the microphone and I have to hear,
it.
you get after me about some of the noises I'll make into the microphone during a break.
You did actually just burp into the microphone, but fortunately it wasn't on yet.
It happens.
So.
It happens.
I feel bad for Mitch Moss having to sit in that after you, actually.
Whatever. I've sat in worse. But I will say, you and your constant into the mic for the last 2 or 3 shows has been quite irritating. So I'm glad that you're finally over this.
Words hurt. I do want you to make sure that you know that that's clear. Despite how this show might have started, we're going to have some fun today. So get ready. Lots to discuss over the course of the next 2 hours. So let's set the table like we always do. Roll it.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is The Rundown.
All right, in case you didn't already know, College Football Betting Guide is officially out as of today. Excited. Coming up at 12:30 Pacific, 3:30 Eastern, we're going to have our good friend Matt Youmans on the program. He did the write-up for the Pac-12 in this year's College Football Betting Guide, as well as a handful of other articles that includes his top 50. We did a preseason top 25. He went out to 5-0.
The pathetic 12 is what we'll call them, considering the defectors from the Mountain West. Look, I am very excited. College football is pretty much here. I was at a UNLV football practice last night. As we have said 1,000 times over, the college football season right around the corner. All of these teams obviously at camp getting ready to go. Week 0 right around the corner, and a good week 0 slate at that, just because it's football. I mean, not to add to it, but the Hall of Fame game is this Thursday, too. So this is football season now. But I will say this. I'm oddly proud of the work that I did and my compatriots did for the College Football Betting Guide this year. Every year is fantastic, but this year it gets better every single year. So please check it out over at VSiN.com.
You know I love a page count. 345.
That's right.
Let's go.
Of which I am responsible for 49.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
What's 28 times 2? No, a little bit more, 56.
Good
there
for
you go.
you. We will, of course, also at the end of the show, we always do our best bets, but today it would be kind of a special College Football Betting Guide edition with the plays that we had in the guide. Speaking of write-ups, you also, in the NFL Betting Guide that's been out now for a little while, wrote up the AFC East. Today, as our NFL training camp tours continue, are the Jets ready for takeoff? I know of all 4 teams in the division, New York was actually the one. You wrote up a potential over on their season win total.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to like, right? It's one of my favorite online memes of all time. And she is very gorgeous to me. And I think that the Jets are, they have some redeeming qualities that you could really, if you look deep under the surface, can understand and can see the vision of what the Jets are. There's a lot of potential there. I'm not a surface level person, okay? I like to see the potential of people.
Will their defense get an interception this year? That's
the question. It's interesting. It's actually one of the more fascinating dynamics. Historically, terrible defense. Historically, incredible special teams a season ago. We can get into the details of it, but I think there's some upward trajectory for the Jets. We'll see. But I do think that there's something positive there.
Speaking of turnover, though, there is a lot of it going on in Major League Baseball today and over the weekend, as today is the day. It is officially MLB trade deadline day. And, hey, no one thought to intercept the Dodgers, maybe, for Tarek Skubal. And I love you added this one for our rundown today. The Tareks of the trade. Yes, Tarek Skubal officially on to the Los Angeles Dodgers. The rich get richer as they lock up as already what has been a pretty prohibitive price in the market to three-peat for a World Series. Just add the 2-time defending Cy Young winner.
Yep. So despite the acquisition, not a really big move here from the betting odds perspective. You see the price tag in terms of what the package actually was. 3 minor leaguers go over to Detroit. High level minor leaguers, but minor leaguers nonetheless for Skubal. Remember too, I know a lot of people keep talking about this, and we won't get into the minutia of Dodgers are ruined baseball. I'm going to cry about it. This is still technically a rental. Now, I know a lot of people expect, and the expectation is that Skubal will re-sign with the Dodgers in the offseason, but he is still a pending free agent, and so you're not going to pay life and limb for a pending free agent. So I know a lot of people are surprised by the level of the package, but this is generally what you're going to get when you get an ace of this caliber still on an expiring deal. So They're going to go and get him. The odds, plus 175 over Caesars, plus 150. BetMGM, plus 170 to plus 150. We talked about this. Who was it with? I think it was with Mike Palm on Friday. We had mentioned that if you actually looked at the projections, even acquiring Skubal wasn't going to up their chances of winning just because he's a starter who on a team that's already well on their way to dominating in terms of record and whatnot. So I think that this is obviously a big deal for the Dodgers. They're going to have a monster there and a monster rotation nonetheless. But from a betting odds perspective, you're not going to move to an odds-on status. And so they're just plus 150 to win this thing.
It's just one of those things. I mean, you know that you're in a good and fortunate position when the two-time defending Cy Young winner is your insurance policy for another player. Like, you are just adding him to
drop in the bucket,
a crop of pitchers that already includes, and I know Shohei Ohtani, it's the question with his health, but Blake Snell, Tyler Glasnow, Justin Robleski, and then the ace in Yoshinobu Yamamoto. It's just insane, the talent that they're accruing on this team. I know you referenced the return that they get, but something that Dodgers manager Dave Roberts even acknowledged after the trade was done, that even with them moving off of some of those like young players that they have in the minors and everything, that they still feel really good about the up and coming talent that they have and how robust everything is. They're a top to bottom organization that just seems to do things right. And I know everybody's upset about the way that they have done it, but it's not their fault that other teams aren't doing this, right?
No, what are you talking about? It's only the Dodgers who can defer payroll, right? It's only the Dodgers who can put together a package to go and get Tarik Skubal. That was one that a lot of these teams could have put together.
Well, that's my thing. Yeah. This package, how many teams could have done that? And yet everybody's still like griping about them doing it.
Brief sports talk moment. A lot of the owners colluded to make sure that the Dodgers could go and get Tarik Skubal so that they can get their lockout and their salary cap next year. I think that's exactly what happened. I will put the tinfoil hat on because they're sitting there crying poor this whole time. Oh, Dodgers doing everything we can't do. It's absolutely ridiculous. You can do a lot of what the Dodgers are doing here. But I will say this. Two things can be true at once. You can have a realistic conversation about a salary cap while also realizing that none of these cheap owners are actually paying what they should when it comes to some of these payrolls. By the way, so this is trade deadline day. I'm going to interrupt you a lot with breaking news. So you had good news and bad news within the last 20 minutes for you
for
as
my
a fan.
personal teams, yes.
Okay, so the good news is, or the bad news is, Mike Evans, quad strain, not participating in practice today for the San Francisco 49ers. Would you like the good news?
I already know the good news.
Your Padres are buyers.
Correct.
Robbie Ray, come on down.
And I was telling you before we actually got on the air, I was like, I saw a clip from Passan saying that, Mason Miller is off the table now. And I was like, okay, well, that's good to hear, at least that they are believing in the at least brief turnaround that they've had here in the second half and that they can continue to build on what they've been able to do, but adding Robbie right now. So I did not expect them to be buyers, but I was relieved to hear that they weren't sellers. So this is interesting. I'm hopeful that they can still make a push to make the postseason.
Last 10 games for Robbie Ray, 64 innings pitched, a .169 ERA, .318 fielding independent. He struck out 20% of the batters he has faced. He has walked 10%. So get a pretty good arm and pretty good form for the San Diego Padres. We should also note that we have another deal here, and the Miami Marlins are wimpy sellers. They have shipped off Liam Hicks to the Tampa Bay Rays. Pretty good acquisition here. Hicks in 282, 14 bombs, 62 RBI. So Tampa Bay Rays are also buying here in the last few hours before the deadline.
Earlier this morning as well, the Phillies acquired Giants second baseman Luis Arraez, a three-time batting champ who's slated to be a free agent at the end of this year as well. Giants, I think, similar to what you're talking about with Detroit, like you just need to get something back for a guy who's on an expiring deal. That was a move of note. How about what the Yankees did? Like any other moves in particular that caught your attention as maybe a team that you could have interest in?
Yeah, I think there's a few, but you mentioned the Yankees. So Sunday we get the news that they have thrown themselves into the mix. They get Luis Garcia Jr. from the Washington Nationals. Pretty good piece, obviously. Garcia's slash line, 283, 313, 560. That latter stat leading the NL in slugging percentage, 23 home runs, 76 RBI. So it's a pretty good deal here, I think, for the New York Yankees to go and get a piece. They were also active. They shipped off Camilo Doval. He was a piece that ended up getting acquired. I think it was by the Pittsburgh Pirates over the weekend as well. So we saw that news too. But speaking of getting bats, it does look like, not famously, on Instagram, after I called the Seattle Mariners out, they went out and they bombed the Dodgers. Still haven't really played that well. They have finally decided to get into the mix. They went out and they got Taylor Ward from the Baltimore Orioles. Ward has actually not really been hitting that well. But he is really good at getting on base. And I think part of the struggles for Ward has been playing out there in Baltimore. Ballpark really kind of buries him with the way that he hits. So maybe being out there with Seattle, they desperately need something when you're talking about the ability to face left-handed hitting. They were 650 OPS against lefties, second lowest in the major leagues coming into today. So you needed something with Ward, and I think that's really good. And look, I don't know if Taylor Ward's going to be the piece that flips everything for the Mariners, who, by the way, flipped Luis Castillo to the Chicago White Sox over the weekend too. But you at least like to see a team try to address it. We talked about that in my little rant about how crappy they are. Their lineup has stunk, and you need some sort of help. And at least going to get Ward is a sign that they're willing to buy. Maybe they're not done, but Ward is a pretty good piece, and Ward can be pretty good. A former Angel, come on now, from 2024 to 2025.
With Baltimore selling here real quickly, obviously catchers are in pretty high demand. I know Adley Rutschman's on injured list right now, but you would imagine would still be somebody that one of those bigger teams that's in need would be willing to go after, no?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to be curious to see where all these people, there's a couple of these things, these names that are potentially available. Your Braves, by the way, I'll call them your Braves. Speaking of my Angels, went and got Brent Suter from the Angels today, so...
Yeah, I was curious what the Angels were going to do. You said the move off of Jose Soriano as well. I was curious if Reed Detmers might be on the move. There were a few names. He has to be. Right?
Yeah, because Soriano gets shipped off to the Toronto Blue Jays for some prospects. So I now have new favorite players. But it does seem like the Angels are finally doing the smart thing with the shipping off the pieces. So Soriano's gone. We can, Suter, and now we would hope that Detmers, which is one of the key pieces that they could have, is going to be gone too, at least from an Angels fan perspective. And if you're a team that needs an arm, they've got a couple. So let's see if they go ahead and flip these guys in the next few hours. Because again, remember, trade deadline is 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. for us on the Pacific Coast.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say. We've still got a few hours, so we'll be keeping tabs on this as we go. I'm just going to keep Jeff Passan's Twitter page up and see what ultimately comes down while we're on the air here. You hear that music, though. We got to step aside, first time out of the day, but plenty more to come, including some college football game of the year lines and movement we need to discuss. Stick around.
Hey, let me get your attention real quick, podcast listeners. I've got something for you that feels too good to be true. First, credit where credit is due. If you're listening to this podcast, you're already leveling up your betting game. You're riding along with our best bets and top angles. And when there's a good game on, you're probably getting involved with a few props and alt markets as well. But there's one more layer if you really want to step things up, and that's VSiN Pro. Yeah, I've mentioned it before, but things are only getting better for our pro subscribers. We just rolled out our MLB prop projections, breaking down some of the best edges across strikeouts, hits, home runs, and more. And that's on top of everything else pro subscribers already get, including public betting splits, expert picks, and betting guides across the sports calendar. If you haven't tried it yet, stop sleeping on it. You can get your first month for just $9.99 or save big with promo code POD26 on an annual subscription. Hit the link in the description and start cashing in with VSiN Pro. All right, now back to the show.
Odds move up, odds move down. Let's see where the odds are moving today, and do you approve this move?
All right, let's get into it as we welcome you back here to Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel. Do you approve this move in college football game of the year lines? And I guess before we get into some of this movement, you went down to South Point yesterday to collect all of this info for us, correct?
Yep, check it out. Shout out to our buddy Chris Andrews over at the South Point at the tip of the strip. Put out his game of the year lines over the weekend. So went down there to check out some of the line moves and whatnot. And we had not a lot of them moved a ton, but we do have some interesting ones, including, as it was reported by Patrick Everson, which we'll see here, really big move. Chris went out on a limb and staked his opinion on a single game, and you had a line move of about 4.5 points.
Yeah, he said, I try not to let other sports books influence me too much, and that's what makes betting interesting. There are a lot of different opinions, and he was not afraid to stick to his guns on what those were, but as such, some bettors got down on those numbers, and they have moved around a little bit. So let's get into it.
And we'll get to that one later.
Yes.
Let's go in order.
I'm not going to start with it. I know I'm following the rules. We've got a reveal here. We're going to start right away with this Ohio State-Texas game. While a lot of the numbers we're going to be discussing are sharp bettors taking dogs early, this was a pick'em game that got bet in favor of the favorite, Texas at home. We both gave Ohio State the edge in our preseason top 25 rankings, but this obviously is a game in Austin. Do you agree with the move?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and this is a good exercise because it just, those that shape the market, it gives you a sense of where they stand on some of these teams. So this one, for example, this is still telling you that Texas is a lesser team than Ohio State. They're playing at home. By the way, shout out our college football guide. Adam Burke has a great write-up on home field advantage, the varying degrees and value of it. So Texas, with one of the stronger home field advantages, still only laying 1.5 points. We tell you that on a neutral, Ohio State still has an edge, and I think that's fair, but strong enough at home to at the very least deserve to be a pretty short favorite. So I think it makes some sense that you would look at this a pick and say, yeah, I think you should probably skew this a little bit more toward Texas, so you get bet from a pick to -1.5, still giving Ohio State the general edge on a neutral, and I think that makes a ton of sense.
Plus, I still think, and I know this is something we discussed when we did our deep dive on Ohio State in general. Yes, we know they don't rebuild, they reload, all of those things. But when you have as much defensive turnover as they do on that side of the ball, going up against a Texas offense that is returning a bunch, and we have the expectation that Arch Manning is going to be much better after a full year as the starter under his belt, that maybe the offense would get the advantage in that sense of the 1-2. I don't know. But all of that to say, yes, I am in agreement with you from that standpoint. How about in the Big 12 as we roll along here? Houston and Texas Tech. Texas Tech was a pretty sizable favorite here, 15.5. The market felt like that was just maybe a little bit too big here, down from 15.5 to 14. You approve the move?
I think I would defer to you if I remember this correctly. You're relatively high on Houston.
I do.
Okay,
yes.
So I think it makes some sense, especially the changes with Texas Tech at quarterback, maybe a slightly lesser efficient defense. That you look at 15.5 and go like, yeah, I'll take that. And by the way, you're still sitting on the key number, so it's not like it was a move through 14. But I can understand looking at that and saying, yeah, 15.5, maybe a skosh too high, and we'll grab that up.
You love that skosh. Yeah. I know Houston did lose by 24 to this Texas Tech team last year, but it was also a game that Connor Wegman got injured in the, I think, first or second quarter of that game, and it was kind of over from there. This is a league I think is going to have a lot of potential for parity, and Houston is a team that even last year, I don't know if they really got their due for how good they were, and should take some positive steps forward with all the continuity they have. So yes, I'm very pro Houston, and I think they should be able to cover a 2-touchdown spread. So even at the 14, I'm still inclined to look at Houston on the road in that spot. Cal and UNLV, two teams that we are both very interested in. Yeah. A team from Berkeley that I have a lot of trust in their young quarterback, Jaron Sangapula-Tele. UNLV among the favorites out there for the Mountain West this year with Boise State gone. My question to you before we even came on the air today was, what do you think about this UNLV offense? What are they going to be?
I think a perfect season for UNLV is like 8-4.
Okay.
They haven't been around, watching a little bit more of fall camp, going back to spring and seeing them there too. I think it's a little bit more of a flawed offense, specifically a quarterback, than we expect. And I think that this schedule is really hard. And so, but I think from a power rating standpoint, they come in a little high, right? The co-favorite at some spots, or the outright favorite to win the Mountain West. I think you and I have a heavy respect for this Cal group. We like JKS a ton. I think that Tosh Lupoy is going to do a really good job with the defensive pieces that are there. And so to look at this for a weaker home field and say these two teams are near equals to each other on a neutral, I would say, nope, probably not. Let's drive that down. And I would even argue we have some games potentially to be played between now and then, but I think you can make the argument Cal should actually be favored on the road here.
That's what I was going to say, is I am in complete agreement with the number being driven down on this one from the 2.5 to 1, but I think it should maybe go a little bit farther too, and that Cal could find themselves as a road favorite in this spot. We did get another trade, by the way, to the Dodgers, getting Chris Bubich from Kansas City.
Yeah, injured, hasn't been playing since May 18th, so that's a pretty buy low spot. But because there's so much going on, I'm actually kind of sad right now to break into our Do You Approve This move. I did not realize that Joe Adele had been traded to the Cleveland Guardians. So Angels are in the full fire sale, but the prince that was promised is on his way to Cleveland. You don't understand. We were waiting for Joe Adele for a really long time.
You'll make it through.
Yeah.
You'll make it through. To roll this along here.
There's still going to be a Joe Adele bobblehead day, by the way.
Kansas at Kansas State. Looks like the Wildcats here being driven down from 9 to 6.5. So some love on the Jayhawks in this spot. But it seems like Chris Andrews is like me, thinking this Kansas State team is a little bit better than people have been giving them their due. I think K-State should be a relatively big favorite.
Okay, so you disagree with this line move?
I think to that extent.
Yeah,
I think 7.5 would have been about right.
Right, and this is one of those key-ish line moves, right, where key-ish, it's key, like from 9 through the key number of 7 down to 6.5. So some strong opinion to push that down to where it's at.
Yeah,
I'm not sorry.
No, you're fine.
But I think I'm in line with Kansas State's schedule is going to allow them an opportunity to potentially finish at or near the top of the Big 12. but I don't know if their power rating should reflect that opportunity, if that makes sense.
To an extent.
Yeah.
But as you know, I am an Avery Johnson truther, and I think that the combination of he and Colin Klein is going to be a significant difference maker within this offense this year.
Yeah.
So we'll see ultimately if that plays out on the grass,
Wait, who?
but that's how I see it right now. Avery Johnson and Colin Klein.
Who's that last guy? I don't know that name. All I know him is Optimus
Oh,
Klein.
Lord. So let's get to the big move that we were previewing as we initially dove into this segment. BYU and Utah.
Yeah.
So the Cougars opened a 2.5-point favorite, and we've seen a total flip here where the Utes at home are laying 2.
I'm interested in your thoughts. I would agree with this. Again, if we're talking about home field and how much it's worth, Utah has one of those strong ones. It's a rivalry game.
The Muss is like one of the more underrated student sections in college football, in my opinion.
Sure. So I think all of this, and again, remember, this is still telling you that BYU is a better team on a neutral. So I would say that it makes sense that you would push this because or BYU minus 2.5 on the road in a rivalry game like this. That's a really strong power rating gap initially put out there by Chris over there at the South Point.
We don't have a time on that game. That needs to be a night game, right? That needs to be a night game in Salt Lake City for the Holy War.
Everybody hyped up on Mountain Dew?
I would want whoever closes the dog in that game.
Okay.
It's going to be, I think, a field goal game one way or another, honestly, and that's how it's been the last 2 times that these two have played too, home or away. Like
what about the last 3 times?
It's going to be a field. Well, they had that hiatus for a couple years.
Will you be on the sideline for this?
I have been. I would love to again.
I mean, if the Mormons are going to pull out all the stops.
I did the crazy
they would get the
game
holy one.
They had 2 years ago that was like a walk-off 1-point win. Like, yeah,
I worked the sidelines for a BYU Utah Las Vegas Bowl one year.
You did?
Yes.
What year was that?
It was like 2000.
So it's been a minute.
Had been like 14-ish.
Was it electric?
No, if I remember correctly, it was one of the teams. I think it was Utah or BYU was up by like 20 points, and then there was like a fake comeback at the end.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think I would want whoever ends up being the dog in that game. So I'd probably take BYU plus the points.
You know how long ago it was? Maria Taylor was also on the sideline with me, so it was a very long time ago.
Dang. Man, she had some coaches. Remember that Saban interview with her? She had some moments on the sideline, man.
Was she the one like, I'm not, what was it? I'm not going to.
Stop asking.
So quit asking.
Yeah. Oregon at Ohio State. Okay, so the Buckeyes here from 6 down to just 5-point favorite. You know I'm very pro Ducks. I think they should be the favorites in the Big Ten. So I am going to agree with the move.
Yeah, not the most consequential. 6-5. Disagree. You can grab 6 and, you get a missed extra point, whatever it is. Maybe it could fall on that. There's obviously a chance it could fall on 6 in a lot of different ways. But, yeah, I think it makes sense. Again, depending on how much you want to give here, I think it would be somebody like you who would say, no, I think Oregon's close to the equal, if not maybe better than Ohio State. So I'll take my shot with 6.
A couple other ones here. We see Notre Dame go from 7 to 6.5-point favorites against Miami in the revenge game for the Irish. Iowa down from 10 to 8, hosting Nebraska. And then how about for the Cannon? UNLV getting played against here from the Wolfpack, down from 18.5-point favorites to 15.5 against Nevada.
I would just point out 2 things here. First off, UNLV part of 2 line moves, and both against them in the 2 games of the year in which there was a line move. Cal got bet in their matchup with them, and then Nevada. I think that reflects what I've thought about this team, which is I think they might come in a little overvalued. And Mike Montesano was on a numbers game earlier today. I was tweeting with him just briefly because he had tweeted out his bottom 25 power ratings. And I think Nevada might be a little underrated and might be a pretty decent ATS option. So maybe that's a reflection of that thinking as well.
We're going to have some heavy college football talk this week, and rightfully so, with our college football betting guide officially out now. Head over to vsin.com/subscribe if you want to join us on a full-time basis and get access to the guide that, the wait is finally over. Feels like forever. We've got previews of all 138 FBS teams, a preseason top 50 from Matt Humans, who's going to join us later on in the show, power ratings, proven betting systems, and best bets from all of VSiN's sharpest minds and JVT. vsin.com/subscribe. Come join us now.
Oh, Joe Adele's really going.
Watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We're just a couple hours away from MLB's 3 o'clock Pacific, 6 Eastern deadline. Who's buying, who's selling, who's stagnant? We're covering it all here on Money Moves.
Did you say we're
Tony,
covering all the bases?
With you. One might say. Any other interesting deals of note that have caught your attention?
No, but we do have some breaking news in the NFL, which is impactful. Bears safety Kobe Bryant expected to be sidelined 8 to 10 weeks. Hyperextended knee, bone bruise, and small fracture at practice today. No surgery required, but pretty big blow for the Bears depth chart on the back end. And for a team that had some signs of regression potentially, one worth monitoring.
Actually, real quickly, while we're doing kind of the football and trade deadline crossover, I did see this morning Ian Rappaport on the Pat McAfee show saying he doesn't get the sense Max Crosby is going to be traded. I know you've been, delving into all things Raiders lately, and you've had some strong opinions on the Max Crosby situation. Do you agree?
Let's just wait till the trade deadline.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to say.
That's all come on.
What do you mean? That's all I can say.
You can give a little bit more than just wait till the trade deadline?
I think he's going to be gone by the time the trade deadline comes around in the National Football League.
Okay, so nothing preseason, but...
No, I think you have to wait for injuries and whatnot, but I also think that, and I also think, too, if you're the Raiders, you got to wait for the writing to be on the wall. And when they start the season 1-7, you're going to...
You think it'll be that bad? I mean, the schedule is tough.
The schedule's brutal.
Okay. Well, let's get back to the baseball side of things here. Very excited for our next guest. And when you become a staple of the show, you earn your own introduction. Fire it up, crew.
This is Behind the Plate with Chris Jimenez.
How about that? Chris Jimenez joining us here on the Progressive Guest Line, former MLB catcher, host now at SiriusXM MLB Network Radio. What is going on, Chris? How are you? Happy deadline day.
Happy deadline day to you guys, too. You guys obviously think I'm way cooler than I am, and I've just added you to the list of people that I've tricked in my career into thinking I'm a lot cooler than I really am. But I appreciate it. That was awesome.
We're here for you, buddy.
Have you been part of a trade deadline deal?
I've been a part of the waiver trade deadline deal. I've never actually been traded at the trade deadline. The non-waiver deadline is no longer, it's extinct. It's like a dinosaur. It's no longer available to even be had anymore. But I've had plenty of teammates that have been traded. I've been in clubhouses that have made big trades and have had pieces traded away. So it's a very ominous day potentially. And, these days can be also very, very exciting. I mean, there's plenty of teams that are getting that shot in the arm today. And if, the Dodgers, you got it 2 days ago, which is even better. But there's teams that get that shot in the arm that can really help propel you into that, the final 2 months of the season and give you all the confidence and basically the reinforcements you need to make that run.
Yeah, I was going to ask because I think you can go the opposite way with that too, right? Like I'm an Angels fan, and if you're in that clubhouse, you got to think like, man, like what's going? Everybody's getting sold off. Yeah, right. Well, and then there's the Tigers too. I think it was Kenley Jansen the other day. I kind of spoke to it. I'll paraphrase. It was like, yeah, we just don't know what our direction is going to be here as a team. I would assume that's got to be tough. We always talk about these teams that get the big pieces, but for teams like the Tigers and the Angels, when you're in that clubhouse and you're going through a fire sale, that's got to be rough.
It's tough. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think the hard part this year in particular is there are so many teams that are in that same position right now. There's like 2 or 3 clear buyers and maybe 4 or 5 clear sellers. Everybody else that's jumbled together is kind of trying to find that fine line of buying and selling. And that can be really difficult because you do lose friends, you lose great teammates, but also with that comes generally acquiring guys that you feel like, or at least the front office feels like, can help you kind of take that next step. So it can be a very, very difficult day for teams like the Angels just because, they're in that group of being a clear seller. And that's kind of where they're at this point. But if you are a fan of the Angels, there's been some talent that's already come back that you're like, okay, this is really going to help kind of speed up or expedite that rebuild process. I know Joe Adell just was traded a few minutes ago to the Cleveland Guardians. Zach Cozart, catching prospect, is an absolute stud. You guys are going to love him. But these are the types of things that can help expedite that process just a little bit. You may not have those big names anymore that you've seen come and go. And I wonder what's going to happen with Mike Trout if this is that final pivotal moment where he's like, you know what, I think I do need to go somewhere else because I am like 25 years older than most of the other kids on my team right now. And you just wonder what's going to happen with that. But it can also be a benefit and a blessing in disguise in the same result.
Chris, to re-hit on the trade, I know that the Dodgers were favored to land Tarek Skubal when you look at all the prediction markets, but it still was a little bit jarring to actually see it in print when it came down and ultimately what the return was on Detroit's side of things. What was your reaction when you saw the news over the weekend?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I was shocked first and foremost, not at the fact that he went to the Dodgers. Like you mentioned, that was the betting favorite from like the first day of the season. If the Tigers did not, end up favoring well, which they didn't. They're in a tough position because they're kind of in that group too, where you're in that middle ground. You're 2.5 games back right now, that third and final wild card spot. It's maybe not so many games as you are back as the teams you potentially have to jump to get there. And I think that's what ultimately led, to the Tigers making the decision to, hey, we're going to sell. I don't mean to blow the Angels up, but we saw the Angels 2 years ago with Ohtani decide to try to be aggressive, go after him, helped try to re-sign him. It didn't work. It failed in all aspects. And they lost out on a generational talent and potentially what could have come back from that generational talent for literally nothing but a draft pick. So I'm shocked that the trade happened on Saturday. I think that's the crazy thing that most of us right now are kind of still scratching our heads at. But I think ultimately what it comes down to is the Tigers were kind of driving this the entire time, and they clearly had a group of prospects in mind from the Dodgers in particular that they felt comfortable with. And if they were able to, secure those three guys, that they were going to pull the trigger no matter what time it was. And I think the industry consensus was more of the fact that they probably could have waited, maybe could have got another piece or at least taken that, trade conversation to the Milwaukee Brewers, the Tampa Bay Rays, and got them to up their offer. But I think what ultimately ended up coming down was the Tigers were completely okay with three prospects they ended up getting and decided to make the deal.
Of the two moves for these American League East teams, which one do you like more? Luis Garcia Jr. going to the New York Yankees or Liam Hicks going to the Tampa Bay Rays?
I like Luis Robert. I'm not Luis Robert. He hasn't been traded yet, but I like Luis Garcia Jr. I think this fit a need for the Yankees significantly with, basically their three best offensive players missing a lot of time this year, not including Ben Rice, who's been really, really consistent and good. But Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Judge, and now Cody Bellinger missing a significant amount of time. They had to find some sort of offense. Garcia Jr. has the highest slugging percentage of anybody in the National League right now, which is crazy coming from some of his teammates who actually can hit the ball out of the yard in their own spot. But I think this fills a major need for the Yankees. This is a middle of the order threat that's really made a difference with a good team, a good offense, let's put it this way, in the Washington Nationals. He fits the need of he can play some first base, he can platoon if you need him to, and more importantly, he can drive the ball out of the ballpark. He's got one of the highest pull percentages of any player in Major League Baseball, and let's not forget, Yankee Stadium for a left-handed hitter is a pretty favorable park to play in, so I think they're banking on that helping out a little bit as well.
The Padres had a rough go of it there for a while, needed to win a couple series to prove to the front office that they should be buyers and obviously are doing that. Looks like they're staying put with Mason Miller. They add Robbie Ray here at the deadline, and now we're just a game out of that wild card spot. Do you think you use the term shot in the arm, could this be the shot in the arm that San Diego needs to catapult themselves into the postseason?
Yeah, 100%. That's a great way of putting it because if there was one clear area of need, it was starting pitching. They currently employ 2 starting pitchers on their roster, and the other 3 days of that starting 5-day rotation would be bullpen days. So acquiring Robbie Ray, a guy that you feel very confident with, being able to start game 1 of a playoff series, they're going to be getting some guys back healthy too, which is going to be a big boon to that lineup and that, that rotation, of course. But Robbie Ray's a big game pitcher. He's proven. He's a veteran guy. He's got incredible stuff. And he's going to give you a chance to win a baseball game. He's going to be able to log some innings, which is of the utmost importance right now for the San Diego Padres. And let's just call it what it is. AJ Preller was not selling anything at the trade deadline. I don't care if he was 8 games out. He was going to find a way to buy in some shape or form because he feels confident in his group. And I think offensively, their identity is starting to come around a little bit. They just needed some help from the pitching side of things, at least the starting rotation side of things. Their bullpen's pretty mopped up right now. And I wouldn't even be shocked to see them make one more move from a starting pitcher standpoint here before the deadline in like 3.5 hours.
Chris, we've only got about 30 seconds before you go. Since we didn't get to see you in person last week, the schedules didn't line up. How did things go for the Nevada State Little League stuff?
We ended up not getting to the championship game. I think the heat kind of got to our boys. We lost to a really tough Spring Valley team. It was a lot of fun. These guys played their butts off. But 115 degrees is no joke. And I think
It's
our kids found that out the hard way.
You see, you find out what happens when you come to the Val,
Let's
as they call it
go.
out here, buddy.
Amen. Amen to that.
Chris, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it. I know it's a busy day.
All good. Thank you, guys.
Chris Jimenez, everybody. Again, doing great work over there at MLB, SiriusXM, MLB Network Radio. Of course, former big league catcher. Always kind of him to lend his time for us. We do need to step aside here on Money Moves, but when we return, going to get into a little National Football League talk. Lots of news and notes coming out of training camps over the weekend. And will my 49ers have any healthy skill position players by the time we get to the first preseason game of the season? We'll see. Stick around.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
The Circus Survivor documentary is heating up, ladies and gentlemen. And this week's episode is called The Turning Point, for good reason. In week 5, for the first time in Circus Survivor history, the number 1 pick of the week goes down in flames on a Thursday night, and the chaos that follows is unlike anything the contest has ever seen. By the time week 6 through 9 play out, the contenders separate from the pretenders, and the pressure gets oh so real. 18.7 mil on the line. Watch the next episode coming up this Wednesday at 6 Pacific, 9 Eastern, right here on VSiN. Plus, if you're playing catch up, remember, you can find all of the episodes on YouTube. Episodes 1 and 2 out now. Just search VSiN Live. Stormy Bonantoni, Jonathan Von Tobel back with you at Circa Resort and Casino, home of the world's largest sports book, talking all things NFL, which checks out. By the way, I was watching, I don't know if you've seen any of the clips of it. ESPN did like ESPN Jeopardy with a bunch of their personalities, anchors, reporters, and some celebs and all of this stuff. There was a Circus Survivor question in the Jeopardy thing. It was like, yeah, what is the name of this contest pool and this CBS show that eliminates one something? I can't remember exactly what the clue was, but I thought it was cool. It was like a contest
Survivor?
at Circa and CBS, a CBS show, and it was like, yeah, it was Survivor.
Oh, okay. So they did invoke Circa.
But they said Circa in the clue.
Okay, all right. That's what I was wondering. Okay.
I thought that was very cool.
I'm a little distracted.
Why?
Well, I'm trying to find some breaking news up on social media, and our guy Jay Buckley, who is a listener of the program and of the network, and was tweeting out pictures of his dinner at Barry's the other day.
Oh, you're getting excited for tonight, I see.
I'm in a really tough pickle right now, to be honest with you, because I did not eat breakfast, and we got a good push day in today, Storm. But I'm hungry. But I also can't wait until 6:30 to eat.
Snack.
Like, what am I supposed to do?
Don't eat a massive lunch. Just snack. Get a
I can eat
protein
a massive lunch
shake or
and
something.
a massive dinner. I don't know.
Well, listen, I'm just saying you want to get the most bang for your buck out of this experience tonight, I imagine. So you don't want to overdo your lunch to not be able to get all of my money out of me tonight, essentially. So tonight, for anyone who missed it last week, we are paying off the bet that I owe JVT for him having picked the correct winner in the Stanley Cup final each of the last 2 years and beating me in our show bets. We never ended up paying off the first bet, so we doubled down on it for a more expensive, I guess.
Correct.
Win for you. So there we go. We are paying it off officially tonight. I can get this off my shoulders and we can move on.
Want to see a video of me doing push-ups?
No.
Oh, okay.
I like to think that you and I are pretty competitive here. We've got a couple competitive quarterback battles going on for the NFL this preseason as well. What are you so happy
Reed
about?
Detmers, see you later, buddy.
It
has been
you guys
traded.
Are gone.
This is crazy. So we have 2 moves here in the last 3 minutes. Sorry
Do you
to
have
cut you
any
off.
players of worth or note left?
Not really. I have to double check. But we have 2 moves to report here in the next last couple of minutes. First off, you mentioned and wondered what would be the fate of one Adley Rutschman. He is now a member of the Boston Red Sox. So that was one thing that we had discussed. I think the Red Sox, as we had said, if you really dug into the numbers for this run they've been on, although I don't know if you watched yesterday, a homer fest when I think they went back to back to back or whatever it was, going deep in that game against the Dodgers. But they needed lineup help and some more depth. So they go and get Adley Rutschman to add to their lineup. So interesting. You're seeing these teams like the Orioles, like the Marlins that are in the fringes of races. They could theoretically convince themselves to be buyers, but instead have decided to sell off some pieces. Red Sox are going to be the one to benefit from that. And the Chicago Cubs go and get another arm. That would be where Reed Detmers is heading. So the Angels ship off Reed Detmers to the Chicago Cubs. I believe it was my mind is escaping me. I think it was Gausman from the Blue Jays, who the Cubs went to go get. So you expected that the Cubs would be in contention for some arms. It is indeed another one that heads out to the Windy City. Gausman reported yesterday. Today, it is Reed Detmers.
Wow. Lots of baseball news going on. There are still games in action, believe it or not, today as well. In addition to tracking all of these trades, we will preview the whole card a little bit later on in the show and continue to update you with any news as we get it. We did get some news in the NFL today in terms of a starting quarterback for the Hall of Fame game coming up on Thursday. Yes, the preseason is officially here. The Hall of Fame game is going to be the Panthers and Cardinals. And those two teams, in honor of a couple of guys getting green jackets. Got Masters on the brain. Gold jackets. Luke Kuechly for the Panthers getting inducted. Larry Fitzgerald for the Arizona Cardinals. Carolina, 1.5 point favorite where things sit right now, total 36.5. And the Panthers have named their starting quarterback, Kenny Pickett, for the game coming up. You would have to imagine, and I know we've talked a lot about the 49ers injuries, but the Panthers would be a team that would be pretty careful in preseason given the injuries that they have sustained already in camp as well. Nick Scorton, he's done for the season. He tore his ACL the very first day of camp. Chris Brazzell, done before his year even began, torn LCL there. Mitchell Evans was carted off the field the other day with an ankle as well. He's going to be okay. That'll be shorter term, but still a lot of guys going down already.
Yeah, and so I would assume that this is going to be the Haynes King game for the Carolina Panthers. And he fits. You know, if we have
Pickett
time.
will run the ship early and then a lot of Haynes King.
Run. I mean, quite literally. He'll just probably hand it off like 6 times and then call it a night. But I think with King, too, maybe we'll have Matt Humans on again to talk about this as we get closer to the overall preseason. If we have time today, we can bring it up with him. But he does a good job of always listing out all the depth charts, writing about it up at VSiN.com. But when you look at quarterback depth charts in the preseason, what's one of the key factors you want on the back end of your quarterback depth chart? You want mobility. Haynes King has some of that. Offensive line play generally is pretty bad. You want to be able to evade pressure, all those sort of things, extend plays. So King might be a pretty good option for the Carolina Panthers to play. I don't know. What would you think? Like 3 quarters, maybe? I mean, he's going to play quite a bit. So worth noting, it might be the King game.
Mobile quarterbacks in preseason are a nice toy to have, for sure. Yeah. Speaking of quarterbacks, though, we have a lot of quarterback battles going on right now. And one of which I thought was interesting, and just from a newsworthy standpoint, with Cleveland, because according to some of the prediction markets, there's actually differing sentiment depending on where you look of who should be favored between Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders. So Sanders has gotten some love in some places. And also the news that Deshaun Watson is reportedly open to a contract extension and coming back to Cleveland. Is that not the most absurd thought to even have? The idea that the Browns would bring you back again after what this contract has played out as?
I mean, in a sense, and like at first blush, yes, but it depends on what it is, right? In terms of what you're paying him. So
I don't care what it is.
I would assume it's not $50 million guaranteed, but who knows?
Baker can't even get that.
Who am I? Right. But I would think that you'd be open to it in the sense of like, I don't know. Here's the thing. The wording is important. Yeah, Deshaun Watson would be open to it. Yeah, sure. Right? I think we'd all be open to security and contracts and whatnot in our respective jobs. So I think it's not surprising. Although I will say that on the first pass of camp today, he hit Harold Fannin for a really big gain, and I think that he has won the job.
So now preseason and training camp stuff does matter to you.
Yes,
now that you've seen a positive play finally from Deshaun
I will say this. Look, I think he's going to be the starter. I know prediction markets are wildly accurate when it comes to information-based stuff, as we have learned over the last couple of weeks in the NBA. But I would say that I think it's a no-brainer that he is going to be the guy. Now, whether or not he plays to the level that he keeps the job is another thing. You and I have disagreed on this. We'll talk more about Cleveland when we get to them as part of our training camp tour. But got the sneaking suspicion that the team's going to be a little bit pluckier than people expect them to be. And what if Deshaun Watson is just average this year? That's going to be a pretty big deal. We have a red light. You have to speak.
No, I was just thinking, like, what would it take if I was Cleveland Brass, no matter the price, to bring him in? How good of a season would he have to have?
No, I think there's a lot of factors.
I think even if he had an MVP caliber season, they'd be like, get the hell away from us.
That's not true at all. That's ridiculous. That is very hyperbolic, and you know that. If he won the MVP, they wouldn't bring him back.
I didn't say if he won MVP. I said MVP caliber.
Okay, either way. If he
got back to as good of a player as he was in Houston for
Okay, now
for
you're
1
being
year.
ridiculous. If he was Houston Deshaun Watson, they would sign him in 2 seconds.
But all of these things, like, but
Guys
he's
have had
not.
worse seasons
But
and
this
gotten
is the
contracts.
thing. The entire time he's been there, whether it be
You're not wrong.
he's played 19 games.
We're not disagreeing. We don't disagree on that concept. I think what a lot of people, such as yourself, are refusing to see, there is a possibility that Deshaun Watson is like an average to slightly above average quarterback this year. There is a chance.
There's a possibility I could win $1 million too,
Right,
but
but
it's not going to happen.
The likelihood, but see, that's what I'm saying. You're taking my words as he's going to be Houston Deshaun Watson. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there is more of a reality than I think people are realizing that Deshaun Watson is the 16th best quarterback in the NFL this year. That injuries were truly part of what derailed his time in Cleveland, and that when fully healthy, he can at least approach average and give them a shot in almost every single one of these games.
But is a guy who has had 2 ruptured Achilles ever fully healthy?
I don't know, but I'm just saying I think that's more of a possibility than we're giving it credit for. And when you talk about handicapping, betting, things like that, you do have to at least acknowledge all of the scenarios that could potentially happen, and that is one. They're a pretty talented defensive team, and that if they can just get average quarterback play, they're going to be in a much better position in a lot of these games. It's what we've waited for this team in a whole time. And that's all I'm saying is the blind belief that he's just going to be god-awful. I think we should just pump the brakes on that a little bit.
I don't think he's going to be god-awful, but I don't think he's going to be average either. And so we'll agree to disagree on that one, but that's okay. That's what this is for. We got to step aside here on Money Moves. Coming back, top of the hour next on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.